The sky above the floating city was bright with sunlight, but Princess Aelira did not notice. Her wings, the magnificent limbs that had carried her across clouds and stars, were broken. A terrible accident during a practice flight had torn the membranes and cracked some of the wing joints. She tried to flap, but her body wobbled and she barely lifted off the ground before falling back onto the soft landing platform. Pain surged through her muscles and frustration burned hotter than the sun. She looked around at the crowd of engineers and mechanics who had gathered to help. Dozens of the finest alien mechanics in the galaxy were present, all equipped with advanced tools and technology. Machines hovered nearby, diagnostic beams scanning the wings, measuring every fracture, every weakness. But no matter what they tried, the wings refused to respond. Bolts wouldn't hold, membranes wouldn't stretch correctly, and reinforcements kept bending or breaking under pressure. "This is impossible," muttered one of the engineers, a tall alien with 4 arms. "Even the oldest techniques cannot fix this kind of damage." Another shook her head, her multicolored eyes glimmering with doubt. "I have studied dragon wings my whole life. I've never seen damage this severe." The murmur spread through the city. Citizens whispered to each other, amazed that a dragon so powerful could be grounded, that even experts could fail. Princess Aelira's pride was wounded more than her wings. She hated feeling helpless. For centuries, dragons had been admired for their grace, speed, and strength, and she had been among the best flyers in the skies. Now, lying on the platform, her beautiful golden scales glinting under the sun, she felt small, weak, and frustrated. She folded her broken wings around her, hiding the tears of frustration she refused to show to the others. Days passed. Alien mechanics tried everything: laser welding for the wing bones, synthetic membranes, force fields to support the joints, but nothing worked. Each attempt left her wings weaker, and Aelira began to fear she might never fly again. Her flights had been more than display, they were her freedom, her pride, her identity. Without them, she felt trapped, even in a city that had always praised her. As the sun rose one morning, a small figure appeared at the city gates. Kieran, a human boy with grease-stained hands and a small satchel of tools, had heard about the dragon princess plight. Humans were not known for fixing dragons, and most alien citizens laughed when they saw him approach. "A human?" one engineer whispered. "What can a small child do that we cannot?" Kieran, however, paid no attention to the whispers. He walked steadily toward the platform, his eyes focused on Aelira's wings. Princess Aelira watched him approach. At first she felt skepticism. This boy looked so small, so ordinary, so inexperienced. Could he really do what all the experts could not? But something about his calm, determined manner caught her attention. Unlike the alien mechanics, he did not glance at his tools in panic or consult complicated machines. Instead, he observed the wings, bending slightly to see angles others ignored. His hands were small, but he moved with purpose, touching the broken sections carefully, almost respectfully. "Your Highness," Kieran said softly, bowing his head slightly, "I would like to try. I think I can help." The engineers laughed, some openly mocking him. "You? A human boy? With what? Your hands? Your primitive tools?" Kieran did not respond. He only looked at the wings and nodded, as if understanding them better than anyone else. He opened his satchel and revealed a roll of duct tape, some small clamps, and simple tools that any human might use. Aelira's eyes narrowed. "Duct tape?" she asked, her voice both surprised and skeptical. Kieran smiled faintly. "It may seem simple, but sometimes simple is what works best." The alien engineers rolled their eyes, muttering that no mere tape could replace decades of technology and skill. But Kieran ignored them, kneeling beside the dragon princess, his hands moving carefully over the damaged wings. He examined every joint, every tear, every weak spot. Unlike the engineers who relied on lasers and machines, Kieran used observation, patience, and trial and error. He measured angles with his fingers, tested flexibility with gentle pressure, and used the tape to reinforce broken areas without stressing the fragile membranes further. He worked slowly, meticulously, carefully placing each patch where it could support movement without restricting natural motion. Hours passed. The sun moved across the sky, and the crowd grew silent, curious. The alien mechanics whispered among themselves, some beginning to watch the human boy with a mix of disbelief and growing respect. The princess herself had stopped doubting, her eyes following each movement of his hands. There was something about his focus, his quiet confidence, that inspired hope she had not felt in days. Finally, Kieran stepped back and nodded. "Try flapping," he said softly. Aelira inhaled deeply, stretched her wings and slowly moved them. At first there was a slight wobble, but the patches held. With another flap, she rose a few feet, hovering cautiously above the platform. Gasps and murmurs swept through the gathered crowd. The duct tape held. The wing structure, reinforced carefully by the human's simple but clever methods, was working. She flapped again, stronger this time, testing every movement. Her wings were not perfect, but they were flying. Slowly she rose higher, circling above the city, golden scales gleaming. The alien engineers watched, stunned. The city cheered. A human boy, small and underestimated, had done what the best engineers in the galaxy could not. Elira landed smoothly, folding her wings carefully. She looked at Kieran, pride and gratitude shining in her eyes. You have saved me," she said softly. Kieran shook his head. "I only help. You still fly because you are strong and brave." She smiled, realizing that humans, so small and seemingly simple, could have ideas and ingenuity that even the greatest alien minds sometimes overlooked. The floating city had witnessed something remarkable that day. Not just a repaired pair of wings, but the proof that courage, clever thinking, and determination could succeed where pride and technology had failed. Princess Elira had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the simplest solutions, guided by intelligence and heart, could surpass the most complicated tools. And the galaxy would never underestimate humans again. The city was quiet after the excitement of Princess Elira's first flight. Citizens whispered about the human boy who had fixed her wings with nothing but duct tape and simple tools. Kieran, the small human, walked carefully among the floating platforms, his satchel bouncing lightly on his back. The aliens still stared, some in disbelief, some in admiration. A boy, human and untrained by alien standards, had done what years of alien engineering could not. Kieran stopped near the princess, who watched him with interest. Her wings, though repaired, were still fragile in some areas. She flapped them gently, testing each movement. "You've done something no one else could," she said. "But I want to understand how. How did you know what to do?" Kieran shrugged, kneeling beside her. "I looked carefully. I studied the damage. Sometimes, machines and tools can make things more complicated. I just tried to fix what was broken using what I had." Elira tilted her head, curious. "Your tools? Simple things like tape, clamps, and ropes. You humans really think differently." Kieran smiled faintly. "We have to. We don't have the same resources you aliens have. So we learn to make the most of what we have. Sometimes a small idea works better than a big machine." The princess was silent for a moment, realizing that his approach was both clever and brave. Alien mechanics had relied on technology, complex diagnostics, and years of tradition. Kieran relied on observation, patience, and creativity. It was human ingenuity in its purest form. "Tell me," Elira said, spreading her wings wide, "what will you do next? Will you leave now that the wings are fixed?" Kieran shook his head. "I want to make sure they are safe. Sometimes a small patch isn't enough. We need to reinforce certain areas and make the structure stronger. Then your flights will be safer." The alien engineers watched from a distance, whispering among themselves. Some were skeptical, others curious. None of them had thought the human would continue helping once he had proven himself. But Kieran did not seek praise or reward. He simply wanted to solve the problem and ensure the princess could fly safely. He began to examine the wings again, kneeling carefully to avoid stepping on fragile membranes. He touched the repaired joints, testing their strength. He measured angles with his small hands, adjusted clamps slightly, and added small strips of tape in strategic locations. Each movement was precise, careful, and thoughtful. Elira watched closely, noticing how different his approach was from the alien engineers. He did not rush or panic. He analyzed, tried, and adapted. Hours passed. The sun moved across the sky, reflecting off the golden scales of the princess and the metal tools in Kieran's hands. Small citizens gathered around, whispering and watching. Some brought him simple food and water, curious about the boy who had solved a problem no one else could. Kieran accepted politely but continued his work, focused entirely on the wings. "Why do you care so much?" Elira asked softly, curiosity in her eyes. "You are not required to help me, and no one expects a human to have this skill." Kieran paused, looking at her. "Because it's the right thing to do. You need help and I can give it. That's enough reason. Strength is not just about wings or claws, it's about using your mind to solve problems and protect others." Elira thought about his words. In her long life, she had met powerful beings who cared only for status or glory. Kieran, small and human, had no ambition other than helping her. She realized that courage and cleverness could come in any form, even from those who seemed weak or ordinary. By evening, Kieran had finished reinforcing the wings. The repairs were subtle but effective. He tapped the membranes gently, flapped the joints, and ensured that each patch worked with the natural movement of the wings. Elira raised herself into a small hover, flapping slowly. The wings held. She flew higher, circling above the city cautiously, testing each movement. The citizens cheered quietly from below. Landing smoothly, she looked at Kieran with newfound respect. "You humans are truly remarkable," she said. "Not because of your strength but because of your mind and heart. You think differently and that gives you an edge no one expects." Kieran smiled faintly. "I think everyone has an edge if they try. Sometimes it just takes a small idea to make a big difference." The alien engineers were silent, their expressions a mix of awe and disbelief. They had spent decades learning the art of wing repair, yet a human boy had succeeded where they failed. Some began to nod in respect, realizing that ingenuity, patience and careful observation could outmatch experience and tradition. That night, as the floating city quieted and stars appeared in the sky, Elira stretched her wings fully. She had regained her freedom, her pride, and her confidence. And she knew she owed it to the human boy who had seen solutions no one else could. Kieran sat nearby, quietly cleaning his tools, satisfied not with praise but with knowing he had helped. The city would remember this day. The Dragon Princess wings had been restored, yes, but the greater story was about courage, creativity, and human ingenuity. Kieran had shown that even small, underestimated humans could achieve extraordinary things when they applied their minds and hearts. Elira turned to him one last time that night. "Tomorrow we fly again," she said softly, her voice full of promise. "And I want you to be the first to see my new maneuvers." Kieran nodded, feeling proud but modest. He had not come for glory but he had earned respect. And he understood that human creativity, patience and cleverness could achieve wonders the galaxy had never expected. As the stars shimmered above, the princess and the human boy looked out over the city, ready for new challenges, new flights, and new opportunities to prove that even the smallest could do the greatest things. The morning sun lit the floating city in gold and silver, casting long shadows across the platforms. Princess Elira stretched her wings carefully, testing their strength again. Kieran, the human boy who had earned her trust, knelt beside her, inspecting each joint and membrane. Today would be the true test. The repairs had held during short flights, but the princess needed to soar, to perform the maneuvers that had once made her the fastest and most skilled flyer in the city. Kieran studied the wings, his small hands moving deliberately. "We need to make sure the joints are strong and the membranes flexible," he said quietly. "If one part fails it could tear again. I want to reinforce the areas that feel weakest." Elira nodded, folding her wings slightly so he could work. Other citizens gathered to watch, curious and doubtful. Many had expected the princess to fail again, certain that no human could fix something so complex. Kieran opened his small satchel. Inside were strips of duct tape, lightweight clamps and a few human tools. Nothing fancy, nothing alien. He worked carefully, testing each patch before placing it, making sure that every adjustment preserved the natural movement of the wings. He measured angles with his fingers, pressing gently to check for strength. Each motion was slow, precise and thoughtful. Elira watched him closely. The other alien mechanics had relied on machines, on complex beams and lasers. Kieran relied only on his observation, patience and simple materials. It was not fast but it was clever. Step by step he strengthened the wing joints, reinforced the damaged membranes and adjusted the alignment. Slowly the wings began to regain their former shape. "Watch this," Kieran said softly, motioning for her to lift slightly. Elira flapped once then twice. She hovered a few feet above the platform. The wings held steady. A murmur went through the crowd. The duct tape, carefully applied, and the clamps, positioned precisely, were supporting the structure. Even the alien engineers exchanged uncertain glances. Encouraged, Kieran moved to the next joint, reinforcing a weak spot that had caused wobbling during previous flights. He tested it carefully, pressing gently to make sure it could bend without breaking. Elira flapped again, gaining a few more feet in altitude. The movement was smooth, natural. She felt her confidence returning. The human boy's simple but effective methods were working. "Good," she said, smiling faintly. "You think like a mechanic and a flyer at the same time." Kieran shrugged. "I just think about how things move. If it bends or tears, you have to support it without stopping its motion. That's all." His humility amazed her. He had solved a problem no one else could, but he acted as if it were no big deal. The city watched silently as Kieran moved around the wings, placing small patches in just the right spots. His fingers were quick but careful. He reinforced a few membranes along the edges, tightened the clamps on the wing bones and smoothed each surface. Every adjustment was simple, but the result was extraordinary. Elira could feel the wings responding, becoming stronger and more flexible. By midday the repairs were complete. Elira hovered in place, flapping slowly. The wings held perfectly. She rose higher, performing small turns and curves. The duct tape and clamps did not restrict her movements. Instead, they enhanced stability. The citizens gasped, amazed at the sight of the princess flying again, higher and steadier than she had in weeks. Kieran stepped back and observed carefully. "Try your larger maneuvers," he said. Elira took a deep breath and soared into the sky, performing rolls, spins and dives. The wings responded beautifully. Every patch held, every clamp stayed in place. The simple human methods had succeeded where advanced technology had failed. Even the alien engineers stared in awe, realizing that intelligence, creativity and patience could surpass power and tradition. Landing smoothly, Elira folded her wings and looked at Kieran. "I cannot believe it," she said softly. "You have done what no one else could. My wings, they feel stronger than ever." Kieran shook his head, modest as always. "I just used what I had. You provided the strength and courage. I only guided it." The princess smiled. She had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the simplest solutions, guided by intelligence and patience, could succeed where complex tools failed. Kieran had proven that human ingenuity could accomplish remarkable things. Size, strength, or advanced technology were not always the keys to success. Thinking clearly, acting patiently, and adapting creatively could change everything. The crowd began to cheer, celebrating the princess' flight and the human boy's cleverness. Elira rose into the sky again, performing her maneuvers confidently. Kieran watched from below, quietly satisfied. He had not sought glory or recognition, but the respect and admiration he received were well earned. The floating city would remember this day not only for the dragon princess' return to flight but also for the ingenuity of a human boy who dared to try when others failed. As evening approached, the princess landed again, folding her wings carefully. She approached Kieran and bowed slightly. "You have my gratitude and my respect," she said. "Your creativity, patience and cleverness have saved me. I will not forget this." Kieran smiled faintly, feeling proud but modest. "I only did what anyone should do if they can help." That night, as the floating city quieted and lights twinkled across the platforms, Princess Elira looked at her repaired wings. They were strong, flexible and ready for new adventures. And she knew she owed it all to the human boy who had seen possibilities where others saw only failure. Kieran, sitting quietly nearby, cleaned his tools and reflected on the day's work. His actions had proven once again that humans, though small and underestimated, could achieve extraordinary things through ingenuity, patience and courage. The sky above promised many new flights, new adventures and new challenges. But for now, the Dragon Princess had her wings, and the city had witnessed the quiet brilliance of a human who had made the impossible possible. The morning air was crisp and clear over the floating city, and Princess Elira stood on the launch platform, her wings fully extended. The repairs Kieran had made were holding perfectly, and today she would test them in a real flight. Citizens gathered below, excited and curious. They had seen her hover and glide in small tests, but no one had witnessed a full flight since her accident. Many whispered that even the best human engineers could not handle such a challenge. Kieran, standing nearby, only adjusted his satchel and watched quietly, calm and focused. Elira stretched her wings carefully, feeling the reinforced joints and patched membranes respond to every movement. The wings felt strong, but the real test would be in full motion. She took a deep breath and leapt from the platform. The city held its collective breath as she flapped slowly, rising steadily into the air. The repaired wings held perfectly, lifting her higher with each beat. Citizens gasped and cheered as she hovered above them, her golden scales glinting in the sunlight. Kieran knelt on the platform, observing every movement. "Now try some maneuvers," he called softly. Elira nodded and began to turn, banking sharply over the floating platforms. She dove toward the lower levels, then pulled up, testing her wings at every angle. The tape and clamps Kieran had applied held firm. The joints were stable, the membranes flexible, and her movements smooth. She felt freedom returning with every flap, exhilaration she had thought lost forever. From below, the alien engineers and citizens watched in amazement. They had doubted the human boy's abilities, mocking him quietly for trying. But now they could see the results. A small human, armed with simple tools and a clever mind, had restored the wings of the Dragon Princess. Even the most experienced mechanics looked embarrassed, realizing that creativity and intelligence sometimes mattered more than years of tradition and advanced technology. Elira soared higher, performing roles and spins she had practiced since childhood. She felt the wind rushing past her face, the currents beneath her wings guiding every motion. Kieran followed her with his eyes, ready to make adjustments if anything felt weak. But each movement was perfect. The wings responded naturally as if they had never been broken. She could feel her confidence returning and with it, her pride. "Excellent," Kieran called up to her. "Your wings are strong. You just need to trust them." Elira laughed, the sound like wind over mountain peaks. She had doubted herself for days, but now she realized that trust and patience were as important as strength. With each beat of her wings she felt more certain, more capable. She began to experiment with new maneuvers, diving through gaps between floating platforms, twisting and turning with precision. The citizens cheered from below, amazed at her skill and the smoothness of her flight. Even the alien engineers who had once laughed at Kieran's methods had to admit they were witnessing something extraordinary. A human's ingenuity had made the impossible possible. After an hour of testing, Elira returned to the launch platform, landing gracefully. She folded her wings carefully and looked at Kieran with gratitude and admiration. "You've done more than fix my wings," she said. "You've given me my freedom again. You've shown that humans can solve problems in ways no one else can imagine." Kieran shook his head. "I just tried to help. You did the flying. I only guided it." She smiled, realizing that his humility was part of what made him remarkable. He had risked his own reputation and ignored the doubts of the crowd to focus on solving the problem. His careful observation, creativity, and patience had brought her back to the skies. She had learned that humans, though small and underestimated, possessed ingenuity and courage that could surpass even the greatest alien engineers. The city continued to watch as she demonstrated her restored flight. Every maneuver was precise, controlled, and elegant. Kieran moved among the platforms, ready to assist but needing only to observe. The wings were stable, the repairs effective, and the Dragon Princess was once again in full control of her abilities. By evening, Elira had flown multiple rounds, testing every aspect of her wings. Citizens and engineers alike cheered her success. Even the skeptics could not deny that Kieran's simple methods, duct tape, clamps, and careful planning, had produced extraordinary results. Humans, they realized, had a quiet brilliance that often went unnoticed. Elira landed for the final time that day, folding her wings with care. She approached Kieran, bowing slightly in respect. "Your cleverness has changed everything," she said. "You've restored my wings and my confidence. I will never forget this." Kieran smiled faintly, feeling proud but modest. "I just did what I could. You flew because you were brave enough to try." As the sun set over the floating city, Elira stretched her wings one last time and looked to the horizon. She felt freedom, strength, and pride coursing through her again. And she knew that her success was not just her own. It was the work of a small human boy who had seen solutions where others saw failure, who had acted with intelligence, patience, and courage. That night, as the stars shimmered above the floating city, Elira and Kieran sat quietly on the platform. The princess reflected on what she had learned about humans. Their creativity, determination, and ingenuity were remarkable. Kieran, meanwhile, cleaned his tools, content in the knowledge that small, careful actions could achieve greatness. The day had proven something important. Size, strength, and advanced technology were not always the keys to success. Cleverness, patience, and courage could achieve the impossible. And in the skies above the floating city, the Dragon Princess had regained her wings, her pride, and her freedom, all thanks to a human boy who dared to think differently. The sun rose over the floating city, casting golden light across the platforms and towers. Princess Elira stretched her wings fully, feeling the strength and flexibility restored by Kieran's careful repairs. Today she would show the city just how much her flight had improved. Citizens gathered early, excited to see the Dragon Princess soar once more. Whispers passed among the crowd about the small human boy who had fixed her wings when everyone else had failed. Kieran stood nearby, watching quietly. He had checked the wings again, testing the joints and membranes for any weakness. Everything held perfectly. The clamps and tape, carefully applied with patience and observation, supported the structure while allowing natural movement. He adjusted one small strip, making sure it would not interfere with the wing's motion. Satisfied, he stepped back, letting Elira prepare. Elira took a deep breath and leapt from the platform. The wings responded beautifully, lifting her higher than she had flown in weeks. Citizens gasped and cheered as she performed slow, steady turns, testing stability. Then she began to climb higher, flapping strongly and confidently. Kieran watched her movements, noting the fluidity and strength. The wings were not only repaired, they were better than she remembered. "Try your maneuvers," Kieran called softly. Elira nodded and dove through the spaces between platforms, twisting and rolling with precision. Every movement was smooth, every turn perfect. The repairs held firm. The citizens below cheered louder, amazed at the display. Even the alien engineers who had once doubted him now watched with awe, realizing that human ingenuity had succeeded where advanced technology had failed. Elira rose above the city, gliding with elegance and power. She felt freedom and pride surging through her. The wings that had once been broken now carried her with strength, thanks to the human boy who had seen possibilities no one else could. Kieran remained on the platform, observing quietly, ready to make adjustments if necessary, but everything held perfectly. The princess began to experiment with more daring maneuvers. She looped through the sky, performed spins, and even hovered upside down for a few seconds. Each movement tested the limits of the repaired wings, and each time they responded flawlessly. Kieran smiled faintly, satisfied. His simple methods, careful observation, patience, and clever use of everyday tools, had worked exactly as he had hoped. Landing smoothly, Elira folded her wings and approached Kieran. "You have changed everything," she said. "Not just for me but for everyone who doubted humans. Your intelligence, patience, and cleverness have saved me and shown the galaxy something important." Kieran shook his head. "I only used what I knew. You flew because you were brave enough to trust the wings and yourself." The citizens began to cheer, celebrating not only the princess' return to flight but also the clever human who had made it possible. Kieran had not sought recognition, yet his actions earned respect from all who had witnessed them. Even the alien engineers, previously skeptical, acknowledged his brilliance quietly, understanding that sometimes ingenuity and adaptability mattered more than experience or technology. Elira extended her wings once more, rising into the sky for a final demonstration. Citizens watched silently, captivated by her movements. Every roll, every dive, every gentle glide was a testament to Kieran's skill and the simple, clever methods he had used. Humans, small and underestimated, could solve problems in ways no one else could, she realized. Their ingenuity was quiet but extraordinary. After returning to the platform, Elira looked at Kieran with deep respect. "I have flown many times, but today I have learned something more important than flight itself. Humans, even small and unassuming, can accomplish incredible things. You have shown that patience, creativity, and courage are more powerful than any machine or advanced tool." Kieran smiled, cleaning his small tools. "I only helped in the way I could. Anyone would do the same if they saw a chance to help." The floating city remained abuzz with excitement. Citizens whispered about the human boy, telling stories of his cleverness and courage. He had not only repaired wings but had proven that human ingenuity could overcome challenges that seemed impossible. The tale of Kieran and Princess Elira spread quickly, inspiring hope and admiration across the city. Elira took a last flight that evening, soaring into the sunset with her wings fully extended. The sky was painted in gold and crimson, reflecting off her scales. She performed graceful loops, rolls, and dives, showing not only the strength of her wings but also the clever work of the human who had restored them. Kieran watched from below, quietly proud. He had acted with intelligence and patience, proving that even small humans could make a big difference. As night fell and stars twinkled above the floating city, Princess Elira landed gracefully. She folded her wings and approached Kieran. "You have done more than repair wings," she said softly. "You have restored faith, shown courage, and reminded everyone that ingenuity is powerful. The galaxy will remember this day." Kieran simply smiled. He did not seek glory. Helping was enough. The stars reflected on the golden scales of the dragon princess and on the small human boy beside her. Together they had accomplished something extraordinary. The wings were strong, the flight restored, and the city inspired. But more importantly, humans had shown that cleverness, patience, and courage could overcome challenges that seemed impossible. Elira spread her wings one final time, feeling freedom, pride, and strength flowing through her. She looked at Kieran, understanding that humans' ingenuity, quiet, clever, and brave, was a gift the galaxy had underestimated for too long. Kieran, modest and focused, cleaned his tools and reflected on the day. His actions had proven that small, careful, and thoughtful solutions could achieve greatness. The floating city was calm, the citizens satisfied, and the princess free once more. Above them, the stars stretched endlessly, a reminder that cleverness and courage could reach far beyond what anyone imagined. And in the hearts of those who had witnessed it, humans would no longer be underestimated. They had an edge that was quiet but powerful, a combination of intelligence, patience and ingenuity that could change the course of events, even in the vast reaches of the galaxy. Princess Aelira turned to Kieran, a smile on her face. "Tomorrow we fly again," she said. "And I want everyone to see just how high we can go." Kieran nodded, quietly confident. Together, dragon and human would face the skies, showing that courage, intelligence and cleverness could achieve extraordinary things.